It's time now for another look at what's been grabbing headlines here in France and around the world in the papers. And I'm joined here in the studio once again by Solange Mougin. And Solange, we're looking at the US to start with, and the fact that we've now entered the second year of Robert Mueller's investigation into whether Russia colluded with the Trump campaign team ahead of the 2016 presidential election.
Yeah, the U.S. press is widely covering this anniversary, Thursday's anniversary, and they're focusing on the fact that we still don't know whether Donald Trump colluded with Russia in the tampering of the U.S. election. Many papers, including the Washington Post, wonder what bombshell is going to fall next. They asked that question in a cartoon you can see here by Tom Tolles entitled "Trump Discovers Something Worse Than Tweeting," with a caption right on the bottom that reads, "The uncovering may be worse than the crime." So there may be more embarrassing tweets to come, and if you follow the Post's lead, who knows, maybe there'll be sexting tweets. But on a more serious note, the paper lays out many questions that remain unanswered by the investigation. What's been found so far? Why is it taking so long? How this may eventually end if it doesn't end in impeachment.
The past few days have been full of new leaks and scoops about the Trump administration and that investigation. How is the American press treating this whole story?
Well, there's a lot to unravel because of all of the different facets of the investigation. And Vox does a pretty good job of that, with links to different U.S. publications and the stories that have been breaking over the past week about the investigation, from missing bank accounts to Trump's lawyer saying he can't be indicted, to a Senate committee issuing a report that Russia was indeed involved in trying to help get Trump elected. So for a catch-up on all that, Vox is a good place to start. Now, one article that they reference is from The New Yorker. Their writer Ronan Farrow explains that a bank issued multiple serious activity reports about Michael Cohen, that he's considered to be Trump's fixer, and that those financial records have actually gone missing from the Treasury Department's database. An inquiry has been launched, but The New Yorker says that Cohen may have been paid 3 times the amount that was initially reported, or some $3 million.
Okay, let's shift gears now. And Ebola has resurfaced in Africa. New cases have been declared in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's now reached a city of around 1 million people there. Solange, how is the press dealing with that outbreak?
Yeah, the Kenyan paper, The Daily Nation, says that on top of all of the fear that surrounds an outbreak of Ebola, there's also the added headache of the fact that the disease has resurfaced in a country that's incredibly volatile, where rampant violence, instability, and corruption are commonplace. The paper is also covering how the World Health Organization is treating the DRC's, this is their 9th outbreak of Ebola. But it is actually the first one where the vaccine is available. The Atlantic talks about, we'll see it in a second, The Atlantic talks about the presence of the vaccine, and this makes this outbreak a potential game changer. And it says that the fact that the virus is now in a city is not good news, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's disastrous, because the virus is not airborne. The American site says that if the thousands of doses of the experimental vaccine do work, and if medical teams are properly trained on the ground, then the outbreak could eventually be contained.
Now, of course, how can we forget? Media around the world are covering tomorrow's big day for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, but some papers are focusing on how much money is being spent on this wedding. Yeah, in the previous press review we saw on British papers and even on French papers. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, okay. But to get to other issues beside it being everywhere, the French financial paper Les Echos is also covering the event from a financial aspect. It says that the timing of the wedding couldn't be better for the British economy. Why is that? Well, because this trimester they had their worst year of growth in 6 years. The paper says the royal wedding could actually bring in more than £1 billion in revenue. Why so much money? Well, the British site Metro goes through all of the paraphernalia, all of the things that people can buy, from limited edition condoms to bathing suits to drums to dolls. There are even, get this, Harry and Meghan barf bags. You can see it right there. So if you're sick on a plane during the royal wedding, that's what you need to use. But it's not just the Brits like me that are planning to spend money. Apparently £300 million in tourism will also be generated.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of money coming from tourists, and many of them are expected to be Americans. There's a huge amount of interest in the United States about the royal wedding weekend, in part because Meghan Markle is American, but also because there is an infatuation in the U.S. about the British royal family. Well, in an opinion piece in The Washington Post, Alyssa Rosenberg addresses critics who say that Americans should be proud of the fact that they got rid of the British monarchy during the Revolutionary War. Well, she writes it's okay to like the British monarchy and be proud of being American, saying, quote, "A little bit of openness of our former mother country is a national wedding gift to be proud of."
Well, love them or loathe them, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry will be getting married tomorrow in Windsor. Solange Mijan with the International Press Review. Thank you very much. Well, do stay with us here on France 24. There's more world news coming up after the break. Do stay with us if you can.